Hey, everybody. Welcome to Act 3 on CHLY 101.7 FM. I'm Kathy Holmes. I am so delighted to be your host for Act 3, our first program of 2022. Now, listen, you may hear this really raspy voice. Surprisingly enough, it isn't because I have a cold or any other thing. It's because I want to imitate Carly Simon, or at least I think I do. In actual fact, I was spending time with my family in Fort McMurray. And I learned that over the 3-week period that my system did not like that dry air at minus 29, minus 39, minus 45, and even sometimes at minus 42. Or 52, pardon me. So what happened is my esophagus tube got all nice and big and I needed to get some help. So they gave me some steroids to bring the esophagus tube back down. Unfortunately, my voice is still very raspy all these days later. So it is the same person. Kick yourself back, enjoy the program, grab yourself a beverage. Today's program, we have on the Zoom booth, that is, Tammy Phye. She's with Lifestyle Harmony. Tammy is well known for bringing all good things to our world. Tammy, welcome to the program. I'm so delighted that you're here. How are you?
Good. Thanks so much, sexy voice, for
It sounds so funny to me. And by the end of the day, I tend to talk a lot, as most of my listeners know. But at the end of the day, I had no idea this was going to hang on, and it's just hanging on and hanging on. A lot of people have respiratory illness going on right now that has nothing to do with COVID. So I hope that our listeners will remember not to assume anything, because a lot can be going on. Tammy, as I said, you're the first show of the new year. And I would imagine, because we're about halfway into the month already, time being what it is, goes so quickly. A lot of our listeners had made some New Year's resolutions. Where do we sit with that? What do you think's happening out there?
well, that's such a funny question, in a weird kind of way. And let me address why I say that. Is for myself, I have not set New Year's resolutions, and I don't know how long. And the reason being is kind of like what you said, is so often by now people, set these lofty resolutions, or set resolutions that they want, but they don't necessarily maybe have a plan of how they're going to accomplish, or they're so big, lots of different things. And so what I tend to do, and so what that's doing is it's setting them up for disappointment versus setting them up to win. And I prefer to set yourself up to win, as you know, in a really positive way. And so what I've done for a number of years is actually chosen a word. What's a word that's going to call me into being, that's going to inspire me, that's going to resonate? When I look at my goals that I want, what's a word that kind of can support me through that year? Yes. And then you can find ways of bringing that together. Or it might also be a phrase. And generally speaking, you'll find that it will connect with all your goals and it will resonate. It kind of like, it feels like home.
Oh, so I love that idea. I love that idea. I'm like you, to be honest with you. New Year's resolutions don't stick with me in January. They never do. Because to me, January is still the school year. And my background, of course, is education. So the new year for me was always September. It's never been, for me anyway, January. But I do know that a lot of people, right, they have an idea that they want to lose weight, or they want to read an extra book, or, once a month, or they want to join a gym, or they want to, learn how to be a better cook, or a better this, or a better that, a different version of themselves.
Yeah.
And so they use January as that, jumping off point. And then as they go through it, like you said, if they haven't got it written down, if it isn't a plan, then it somehow gets a little bit lost in the wayside. So tell me the word that you've chosen. Like, I think that's a brilliant idea to help get you directed. Do you mind sharing your word with us? This year's word?
This year's word, I'll actually share it. It took a bit to come together this year, but it's unite.
Unite. What a wonderful, wonderful word. Yeah. And why that word for you?
It just kind of came together with a few different words. And when I look look outside and what's going on in our world, we seem to see so much separation and push pull, and it's like, we come together. Let's bring people together versus separate and divide.
Yeah.
And me, peace and harmony is my
Yeah,
thing,
it's
right?
your thing. And it's an important thing to recognize that this for you and for lots of people is not just words on a piece of paper. Like, you walk the talk, you live exactly what it is that you want to have happen, right? And that couldn't have been easy. How did you start out with, if you don't mind, I'll just bring our listeners up to page as to,
Sure.
what lifestyle harmony, what was the inception of that? Why lifestyle?
Oh, that's a huge one. That goes back to, oh gosh, you know, it's really key for me. And this is really kind of going maybe a little deep for some people. I don't know. But for me, lifestyle harmony was really about bringing peace and calm.
Mhm.
And it's about creating a lifestyle that really resonates, a lifestyle that you enjoy. It's like we're on this planet for the most part. Most of us believe we got one go around, so why not make it the best?
Yes.
And I think ever since I was little, I didn't always feel like I fitted in.
Sure.
And there were times that didn't feel very good, and I was trying to fit in. And as I've matured over the years, it's like, you know what, I'm me.
It's so true. And a lot of us will carry that high school or youthful period of our life where we're not fitting in. And I know of a few people actually where that's almost become paralyzing,
For
right?
sure.
And
But
so go
I
ahead.
think the cool thing about that is that can also become a gift. And
Yes.
that's one of the things that I do to help people, right? Which is a whole other kind of bit. And so about how I got into doing this is I've always believed that there's a bigger picture at play. I don't know, that's just from within my core, that whisper, that sense. If we get still enough, we can feel it, right?
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so I don't know, I think you might recall, like, this is going back a long time. I've burned out through different jobs and decided, okay, I need to make some change. And then I was with my partner. I was with a fellow who got suddenly killed in a logging accident. And those are pieces. It's like I'd had little whispers, guideposts along the way, kind of pushing me.
Yeah.
And then and I had an interest in energy work, and so I've done that. And then when Gordy got killed, it was like I believe that there was a bigger picture. And when something so tragic happens, like overnight, or not even overnight, it was within a day when he got drowned, and it was a remote logging camp, and that was many years ago. But that was part of it as well. That's what got me going into forming. It's like I saw women burning out and aches and pains and aging before they needed to, and so I wanted to make a difference. And that led me to creating Lifestyle Harmony, which is really about creating a lifestyle of harmony. And I think even with Gordy, he was part of that inspiration, because we had had a plan to do that together
Yes.
and what we were going to do. And suddenly he got killed, and I was doing it on my own and went through that grieving process. And that led me to becoming an aromatherapist and working with energy and having my own business. And
Yes.
and now I think you knew I was coaching, but I'm also a certified coach since we've last spoken, and doing, yeah, a whole variety. And
Bunch of good
so,
stuff has happened in the last. I mean, don't get me wrong, Gordy passing away was not good,
no,
not in any way, shape, or form.
but
But
you know
it
what?
was
It
the
it
catalyst to bridge this wonderful new work that you've been doing.
and I would say to people that are struggling, those struggles can be catalysts for new change. And
Sure.
I think when we go back to even the word unite, that also resonates. We can bring in that word to how can it be a catalyst?
Yeah. to make sure that you're paying mind to the things that are important. And especially right now, because I think the burnout factor is coming to us in such a very different way than it has historically, with the pandemic, with the isolation factor of not only older adults, but students, that weren't able to go to school, and children that were unable to play with their friends. And, there's been such an incredible amount of stuff that's happened across our continent and across the United States, and really in
The
all of the
world.
world, right?
Yeah.
We are not the same entity that we were a couple of years back, right?
No.
Yeah.
No.
I love the word unite. It feels like it resonates, and it would be interesting. I would love for our listeners to really think about what their word might be. So do you have a process in choosing the word? How did you sort of define, okay, did it come to you like in that slow, silent voice that is part of our insides, or did you just see it and go, that's it? Or like, what was your process?
Well, you know what? Because we haven't spoken for a while, a few things have changed. And so I used to have a process that I used to do. And this year it was like, I don't know about you, but this year it was like lots of things were in so much change.
So
And
much change. Yeah, for
I
sure.
think it's important to find what works for us, right?
Yeah.
And I just was actually, I was picking a theme originally, and then it was like, yeah. And then I'd heard something or I read something about picking the word, and I just kind of even had it on the shelf for a while. And
Mhm.
then, it just kind of came,
Yeah. And it
kind of,
became a
yeah,
new way for you to visualize your preferred future. So let's talk a
yeah.
little bit about that over the last couple of years, and the changes and the new coaching and all of that wonderful stuff. Fill me in, girlfriend. Tell me what's happening. What made you decide you wanted to become a coach? Although it seems to me to be the perfect thing for you. Absolutely.
Yeah. And because really, part of what I was already doing was coaching,
Yeah.
because it's like, that's part of my philosophy. Where is it that you are, and where is it you wanting to go, and how do we support you to get there?
Yeah.
And whether I'm working for an hour-long session doing a massage and creating a special custom blend of essential oils that they get to take with them, or doing a coaching session, it's quite similar in a lot of different ways, because we're building that foundation and working together in our time. And then they have tools to take away and work and do some of their own work. And
Mhm.
so, yeah. So what has happened? I had a dream for a long time,
Yeah.
and my dream was to build a house and live in it. And I've done that.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So you built your space
Uh-huh.
from the ground up.
From the ground up. And my partner and I, we designed it and we built it. And we were the general contractors and all the trades. And yeah.
Chief cook and bottle washer. Fantastic. That
Mhm.
must have been an experience for you.
Yeah, and still in the process, because there's still a few things that we want to complete and stuff, but we're here.
Yeah.
And so it was a real journey, and it still is a journey. But, the message that I would take away, no, that I would provide to people, what's their takeaway, is never give up on a dream. And,
Yeah.
I'm sure I've talked about that before. And there's times that those dreams may seem like they're gone or they're taken away, because in fact, I'm not going to get into the backstory, but that happened to me in
Yeah.
having this happen. And yeah.
Yeah.
And some of those challenges, we can either have them stop us, they might slow us down, but they can also help us to grow and develop. And it's like, who do we want to become?
Yeah.
And there's that surface of what we want to portray to people
Sure.
that a lot of people want to do. But I'm also about, at the end of the day, when you're just by yourself, how can you feel happy inside? How can
Yeah.
you feel content inside? How can you start to go, oh, I don't like that. That's an area where I don't really like to go. And start to find ways of going there to, it's like the lotus was coming out of all the muck. It's
Yeah.
like, what can we create with
Mhm.
ourselves that creates a lot of beauty and gives us a rich, fulfilling life? And fulfillment can come in so many different ways.
I love what you're saying. And I think that there's so much value in that. Never give up on a dream, have a deadline, give yourself, a goal that is achievable, even if it slows down for a period of time. But what do you do if you aren't really sure what your dream is anymore? I think for a lot of people in this last couple of years, they've had
Mhm.
so many struggles and stripes of any number of different situations, including loss, death, all of that stuff. But also, even in their positive, like they had something really great that was happening in their world.
Yeah.
And then over the last couple of years, the focus has been sort of driven away and procrastination has set in. What would you recommend for people to really do to sort of, A, either create the goal, or B, deal with a goal that's been sat upon in procrastination for a while?
You know, it really depends on each individual because each individual is their own person.
Hmm.
So I think what that would do is what is it that they want? What is it where what's their truth or their particular level of truth today?
Hmm.
And starting off with little steps
Yeah.
and the little steps and the self-care and knowing why they want it, or if they're feeling stuck and going, geez, I don't even know what I want.
Yeah. Say it out loud. Acknowledging it, I think, makes so much difference, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah, acknowledging it and being willing to kind of work with that,
Yeah.
not allowing ourselves maybe to become a victim of it, but recognizing every the word that comes to my mind is lately is the yana, you're not alone.
Yeah.
And I think that that's so key because we often have thought that we're alone, but we're really not alone. And so somebody that's in that, it's kind of like when you look at Act Three,
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah. It's
I,
the third stage of life where you get an opportunity to revisit just anything that you might have not taken a look at, and allowing yourself and giving yourself permission to say, yeah, I had that goal a while ago. Maybe it doesn't fit with me right now, right?
yeah,
Or
be
like
willing to
you,
let it go.
and be willing to let it go. Or like you, in the way of the house and building your house, saying, okay, now I am at a stage of my life where I have the tools, right? I have the ability to make this happen. 5 years ago, maybe I couldn't do it because of XYZ, but tomorrow's another day. Today's another
Hmm.
day, right?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah, every day is a new day, a new start, a new beginning. And I think that's the other thing right now that we're showing is being willing to embrace change,
Yeah.
being willing to let go of what no longer serves us. And we're going through so much change. So what that brings to mind is about being empathetic. What's that? Well, what it
Yes.
we and I often think we hear these words, but hearing and talking about them and actually living them and practicing them are totally different.
I agree.
And
I
so,
absolutely agree with you. I think that it's very, very easy to have words, but if we're not walking the talk, if we're not incorporating that into our daily life, then we can't express change, because sometimes change makes people angry, but it also can be the very best thing that has ever happened.
absolutely.
Right. I was listening. I'm a woman of faith. And so I was listening to one of my favorite spiritual teachers, and she said, she said, if you don't have your change, if you're not recognizing that change is existing, then you have no idea necessarily what your purpose can even be. Right? You get stuck in that idea of this is what I know, and therefore there is no other solution or no other way. But we learn that by talking to other people and finding ourselves in different situations, that in fact our misguided beliefs are often a catalyst for some really great new adventures in our essential being.
Yeah. And that's a really good point, is just our perceptions and those false beliefs that we believed were true. And sometimes it's taking that time to go, what's really true for me? What do I believe? Where did that belief come from? And that was a process that I actually went through many years ago. And I think every so often, it's also important to revisit some of those things. It's like,
I just have to ask you, when you were going through the process, did you find it really hard to face your truth?
when I was going through which process?
The process of coming to where you are now and recognizing that what those falls, like you just said, asking yourself, when you ask yourself, where did that belief come from? Right. And then you put the magnifier on that. But what did that do for you in the big picture of things? Did it change you?
Oh, yeah. And I think there's layers to that as we continue. It's like layers of the onion. It's like, oh, because the thing is, Kathy, is you've probably heard it. And there's different, I've been hearing different ones lately. It's like we're 90% or 97% of how we operate is in our unconscious. And it's only like 3% or 10% is conscious. So when we look at that, yeah, we think that we're like these people that we know where all these beliefs come from. Yeah, okay. When we get into it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like the excavation of becoming more aware and more conscious. And what I will say about that is I think that that takes courage. It takes real courage to look at ourselves. It takes courage to sometimes walk in a different direction.
And that's definitely not an easy task, is it? To walk in a
No.
different direction. Yeah. What has been for you, do you get a little niggle in your belly or a little niggle in your body somewhere that says, something's not quite right? And do you listen to that?
Yeah. And how it varies in how I get it. But yes, usually it's like, oh, someone's not resonating here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I've learned to kind of sometimes um, I might just kind of, it's on my radar. So I need to pay attention.
Sure.
So I'm alert. And depending on what it is, but yeah, it's important
Is there
to pay attention.
Is there anything this year for you in watching how people have been behaving, how so many people have been isolating? What would you, because lifestyle harmony is about really creating self-harmony and harmony within the relationships we have with people that we care for and that we know and in community. So I'm curious about this year's, very up and down kind of behavior community. Like how is that manifested in your business, in your community of practice? What does that look like for you?
I really have allowed everybody to be on their own journey. And I just kind of go, I'm going to hold them that they're really capable people and they're making the best decisions that they can with what they have.
Sure.
And it's not about if I agree with them or disagree with them. It's like they're their own whole person and that's their choice. And that's, and if we can each do that, to me, that's about uniting. It's about honoring and respecting them and honoring and respecting me. And together, if we can honor and respect each other, and recognize that we're in each, and I look at core values as well, or core, our priorities. So there's something within us that's resonating.
Mm-hmm.
And so if that if there's something that's resonating, then we have some things in common. So let's expand that, because you've heard before, what we focus on expands.
Sure.
So if we focus on that, that's much better than focusing on where we disagree. Because if we focus on where we disagree, guess what? We're going to get more of that. And we're seeing that in the world. Maybe not always on mainstream media, but we are seeing it and we're hearing about it. And it's like, you know what? Uh, that tell me how that is creating better health. Tell me how that's creating better wealth for the majority of us. Tell me how that's really empowering us to live a life of purpose and joy. To me, and it's like, look at some of the statistics of abuse and some of the statistics of alcohol and all of those. Unfortunately, I just have huge compassion for people that are really in those states right now. And I just like, it makes me go, oh, if we could like just come together, Kathy, and send blessings and prayers and unite and light to all those that, because children are involved, that's our future. Like, let's remember that.
Yeah.
It's not just all about us as adults,
Yeah.
and how is our current set of circumstances impacting these children that are our future?
Yeah.
Where our nature is to trust, our nature is to connect, to touch, to be together, and we're being separated. And my concern is what's the long-term ramification on not only the adults but also on those children? How's that affecting their brains? And I think there's some research out there that's talking about it's impacting their capacity to grow and to learn.
I do think, though, that children are resilient, and I do
Absolutely.
believe they don't necessarily know what they don't know. As adults, by the way, we don't know what we don't know either. I think this is a continual process. But I agree with you. I think that if we're not adding to the problem, then we're adding to the solution, right? And so I would prefer, I don't know about you, do you watch the news every day, or do you give yourself limits on how much you actually will listen to on broadcasts or news?
Yeah, I find that I give myself limits.
Yeah, I do too. Like, I won't watch the news at night at all. It won't happen.
Yeah.
I don't mind watching it through the day or in the morning, but before I rest, before I sleep, I just can't have that crap in my brain, right? I need to, if I'm going to remain harmonious within just my own physical ability of functioning in my daily life and my family life, my friend life, all of that stuff, I need to be able to have the softness in my soul to be able to, as you have so eloquently pointed out, to remind us of that compassion and that empathetic piece that right now seems to run amok in the horrible things that we keep hearing on the news moment by moment.
Be kind to ourselves, be kind to those that are in our lives, be kind to the people that aren't in our lives.
Yeah, and spread that kindness, because at the end of the day, you're part of the solution, even if you don't know it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that warm smile that you give to the overworked, overtired grocery clerk, or a person who's your barista, or the waiters and waitresses that have lost their jobs and a lion's share of their income through tips and such, where restaurants have shut right down or they've limited capacity. These are people's lives that have been unmeasurably, in some cases, changed, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that people as a whole, we only know what we know within within our peripheral vision, right?
Absolutely.
All right. I have no idea what it's like for Joe down the road, because his experience is going to be different than mine.
And that's the part of being curious, right? And
Yes.
forming relationships and being curious and going, hey, how are you? Or thank you very much for working. I really appreciate that you're here today.
Yeah, like I'm so appreciative right now when I think about the amount of people that have put themselves on the line, the hospitals, even when I was in Fort McMurray, which, by the way, because I presented with symptoms, Anytime you have a scratchy throat or a runny nose or something, especially now with Omicron and all of that, we're getting this, put yourself away from all these people. They're just like not wanting you to come near them. So when I went into the hospital in Fort Mac, there were so many people that were even isolated within the hospital, right? Because if they presented, then they would go on one side of the room, one side of the hall, one side of the community. And if they didn't present, they would be on the other side, right? They put you, if you presented with COVID, they put you in little rooms to keep you separate from everybody, of course, to make sure that you're keeping people healthy. But the amount of time now that it's taking for people to get through systems, because people are now getting sick, there's no staff. People are saying, I've had enough of this. They're quitting their jobs. They're like, it's just such an unusual part of the world right now that I think we need to go back to that element of gratitude, which, so many people have it. I know we do, but we forget about gratitude when we're stressed out. We forget about gratitude when our goals aren't showing up the way we want them to be. We forget about gratitude when we are feeling like the world is against us or the news is telling us that, more people are dying. And so we go into a sense of depression, right? A communal depression. Like, how do we, when I think about you and what it is you do in community, how can you help these people that are feeling so defeated? What would you recommend they do?
There's a few different things. So first off, what I would suggest that they look at doing is kind of like getting their pen and paper out and taking some action. So maybe while they're listening, start taking some notes, because we've shared some juicy things.
A great segue, by the way, to say to everybody that you just tune in, and we'll come back to your answer because I don't want to lose the answer in this part of it, but your segue is perfect. If you don't have a piece of paper and a pen right now, please get one, because you're going to want Tammy Phye's information for lifestyle harmony, where you can get the coaching and the support that you need. So go grab your paper while we're still talking. Keep us in earshot, though, for sure. Tammy, continue. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's great, because you brought it in with the gratitude, and it's like, start, even if you're having, if like you're in a bad state because you've been let go because of the business that you're in has had to close, or you've gone in a different way than what mainstream is, or whatever it might be, or you don't get to see your family because you're old and they're young and they're around all these people, or whatever it might be, or maybe you want to see your family and they don't want to see you, or you're like a black sheep or whatever. What I really recommend, number one, is get to do some gratitudes and actually have a journal, so that if you're really having a bad day, you got something there, and then you can look back at it. And what are you doing? Self-care is important. And what are you doing for hydration? Are you moving? Are you getting a little bit of exercise? Go outside and get some fresh air. If you can't, then open a window and stick your head out. Get fresh oxygen to your brain. And that takes me to like doing some breathing exercises. And if you're, go to the gym, or if you're not and you're staying at home, then, you can look on the television possibly, or on the computer. There's lots of different things you can do there. So, and as you mentioned, limit your television, or limit, get some positive things, some funny things where I know even with myself, if I notice things are a little bit too serious, I'll find, what can we do? I need to have a good belly laugh.
Absolutely.
Because I haven't laughed for a little while.
You know what? That's the thing that I love, is surround yourself with people that make you laugh. Like, who's your person that makes you giggle? Because the laughter in all things is the best medicine, even if it's done over the phone or on a Zoom call, and of course we've all grown to, finding technology as ways to be together, right? Yeah. I mean, we used to go to lunch or we used to go for coffee with our friends. And now, maybe we're not doing that as often, but we can still see them over Zoom and have a wine night or a tea night or movie night,
Yeah.
something to bring that joy back into your world.
And make a list of what makes you happy.
Mm-hmm. So what makes you happy, Tammy?
What makes me happy?
Yeah, what makes you happy?
Oh, there's a variety of things. So practicing gratitude.
Yes.
Tuning into myself.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very fortunate because I have my new home. So I'm grateful for that. But, going to smaller things, I also, I'm grateful with having the shower, a nice warm shower that is bubbling down on my back. And it's like, oh, I'm so bad. I could just stay in there for so long.
I know what you mean. It's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. So for people that like a bath, have a bath. You know me, essential oils. Get out your essential oils that make you smell good, feel good. Because the other thing about those is they're good for your brain as well. And
Absolutely.
and they can help to shift your emotions. So some it going out in nature, looking out in nature. And if you're not able to, find some nature pictures,
You know what I like to do actually, and one of my students recently reminded me of it. I'd forgotten all about it, but I'm a traveler from way back, right? Like I think
yeah,
most people who know me know that I love to go down to Mexico or through the States or Europe or wherever. Like I'm a traveling girl. And my student brought up the other day Google Earth, and I forgot all about being the couch traveler that I once was. Right, so
yeah,
you know how we can't maybe, or well, we can get on a plane, but it's really not as convenient as it's been, right? And
no,
there's a lot
no,
of extra dollars and a lot of extra stress in having to make sure you've got COVID tests and all of that crap to be able to.
yeah.
I mean, and it can actually increase your travel expenses by somewhere between $400 and $800, depending on your family, right? If it's just you or a couple of
If you're
people,
lucky.
if you're lucky, right? And so I have gone back to being a Google Earth traveler, and I will go to Greece and it'll take me right into Greece that I can walk the streets of Greece. I've gone to Greece, I've gone to India. I can never go to India. I know that sounds terrible. I want to go to India so much. Anybody who knows me knows I'd love to go to India, but I can't because I'm allergic to one of their main spices and it's in all of the food. So my friend said to me, if you ever want to go, you can't eat here. You have to bring your own food because you'll never survive it, right? So I thought, oh, it doesn't mean I can't go. I'll just do it by Google Earth, or I will have a Bollywood night at my house and I will watch Bollywood movies and I'll engage into the make believe part of it. But if I want to walk the streets of any country in the world, I can do it just by plugging into Google Earth.
Oh, what a great idea.
It's so fabulous. I'm telling you, it just takes you away, right? It's like
Yeah,
in a mental, yeah, I mean, physically I can't go, but I sure can spiritually, mentally. And even
absolutely.
I can even make it so like when I get really inspired, if I want to say go to somewhere that has exotic food, I will take the time to order in the exotic food. So whether it's from, Persian food or Tibetan food or whatever restaurants that are within my community that I can bring in and have DoorDash or whatever, delivery company bring it on in, or the restaurant themselves. And then I can make it like a big night. Like it's like, I think tonight I'm going to go to San Tropez, right? Or I'll go to Mazatlan because I want to see the beach. And even though it's not perfect, you can pretend to walk the street. Our imagination starts to work again when we are stuck. We can get unstuck in such an easy way.
Exactly. So there you go. That's an awesome one. That's great for traveling. I'm going to try that.
Oh, please do, because it's really fun and you'd be
Yeah.
surprised. Like I have always wanted to go to Mykonos, Greece, but I know that it's not going to happen in the next couple of years for sure. Possibly a few years. That would be a goal that I would have made, several years ago, but haven't quite landed there yet, right? But it's
Yeah.
on my list, right? I want to go back to Trivoli. I'm sure I'm saying this wrong. And please, listeners, by all means, you can make a comment in the YouTube box, or you can call us at the studio. I think it's called Trivoli Square or Trivoli. You throw a coin in it in Rome anyway. And I was in Rome and I threw a handful of coins in that darn thing when I was physically there. So now mentally, of course, I'm like, well, but it said that I was going to go back. So I know eventually I will. Right? Do you ever have something silly like that that just keeps you engaged and makes you want to, keep going or try something, or you've seen something or been somewhere that you want to revisit that idea?
Well, I've been kind of busy in the last little while. So as far as thinking about the traveling, I kind of just put it on the shelf. But as I hear you say that, it was like, oh yeah, I could do that. And as you know,
Your
I
recent
also
travel has been Home Depot and Lowe's and all the places for your house, right?
I know, exactly. I didn't get to ride my motorcycle this year, so next year.
Right. That's right. You're a motorcycle rider. You didn't ride this year. Wow. Do you miss it?
I just focused. And so that's like with a project. Sometimes you just have to focus because you know that it's important for a variety of reasons, and you just dedicate yourself to that.
Yeah.
And recognize, there's time, and joy comes in a variety of different packages, and so does happiness and pleasure. And so, yeah.
And so you get to figure what that looks like every day if you want to.
Exactly. And it's, sometimes it's our society, we're so like programmed to have immediate gratification and look outside of ourselves. Well, what if we look inside of ourselves, look in our communities, and
I love what you said about immediate gratification, because I think that for many people, when they look at their finances, even in the new year, they realize what they just spent in the holiday season. And maybe they went outside of their boundaries this year because they felt that they needed something more, and maybe are wrestling with that. Right. I think that we all have demons, right? There's all things that come to us in different ways that sort of bother us, right? And sometimes, I don't know about you, Tammy, but I will often, I have a 5-year-old self, I have a 13-year-old self, right? I have an early 40s self, and then I'm nearly 60, so I've got a nearly 60 self, right? So I think of myself and my behaviors, and sometimes I will do things that my 5-year-old self is supporting in every way, but my adult self, not so much, right? Right? So I think that we have to also take inventory of, who are we when we're going through these struggles, and who are we when we're not?
But I also think that it's really important to honor that 5-year-old voice or that 13-year-old, because they too have some merit, maybe not let them run the show, but let their voices be heard. And I think sometimes that doesn't always happen. And so then guess what? It's like a little kid that's not getting their way or not being heard. It's going to show up in some other way.
Yeah. And sometimes it can be quite toxic when we let ourselves do that, when our 5-year-old is driving the bus.
Yeah.
Being that this is the new year and we're kind of halfway through the first month of the new year. I don't like dating shows, but I think it's important when it's the first show that we date it just a shade, just a wee bit. Over the next coming months, Tammy, what would you encourage people to do to sort of, what does taking inventory of ourselves look like?
Well, that's for each person to decide on themselves, but depending on what they want and where they're at. If it's somebody that's just really trying to get from today to tomorrow because they're going through so much uncertainty or so much struggle, they need the support, or to recognize, Liana, they're not alone, even though they feel like it. And I get that sometimes that stuff is really uncomfortable and they have to dig really deep. But, it's like our breath. We have one breath in and one breath out, or like the ocean, it comes in and it comes out. And sometimes it feels like it's there for a long time. And sometimes it feels like it's there for a short time. So compassion is one. And then if they're still in that struggling mode, they need to get some support. And where might that be? That might be in their faith. It might be in a book. It might be listening to this podcast. It might be reaching out. There's lots of different ways. And if it's somebody that's really like in their second act or something, then that's a different kind of piece, right? And maybe it's setting a goal with a date and then reviewing it and getting some support with it if they need it, or somebody that's going to hold them accountable. And
Big important word you have there, accountability, man. Because that, I think, is the deliverable for everything in life. Is it's so easy to fall off our own crack when we have no one to be accountable to.
yeah. And not everybody will hold you accountable either.
No. Sometimes you need to hire professionals like the woman I'm speaking to today, Tammy Phye from Lifestyle Harmony. Tammy, I think it's a great idea for you to tell people how they can reach you. If they need the coaching, the supporting, the essential oils, all the wonderful things that you do, how do people find you?
Sure. They can reach out to me either on social media.
Mhm.
So I have a Facebook. I actually probably, if they're reaching out to me on Facebook, it's Tammy Phye.
Mhm. Can you spell
And
your name for people to make sure it's PH?
oh,
Go ahead, you do.
perfect. TAMMY
Mhm.
PHYE.
Mhm.
And actually, shortly, I will be having a new website coming out, which is tammyphye.com. And it's not out yet, so don't go there looking.
But we'll put that link down there in future so people can grab that podcast.
Yeah, it'll be up in
This
the next
podcast,
couple of weeks.
Another time. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have some exciting things. And if people want to reach out because they're struggling, or, they've got some goals that they want to meet and they need some accountability, or they're wanting to have a little more inner happiness, or they've got that voice in their head that's kind of bossing them around.
Yeah.
I've got some really cool things coming up. And also, if they've experienced some PTSD and some trauma from all of this, and there's lots of different ways that I could support them. So reach out to me either on social media. I do have an Instagram account. I don't think I've done much there lately. Anyhow, or reach out to me via email, lifestyle-harmony@telus.net, or Tammy@tammyphye.com. And by all means, I'd be totally willing to offer people, like, if they want to talk to me for half an hour, we can have a conversation.
I think that's a brilliant idea. I think people should
Absolutely.
call you. I think it's a great place for you to be able to give some people some hope and some start, and to walk them ahead in compassion and empathy. We're at my favorite part of the show, so we only have a couple minutes here, but my favorite part of the show always is getting the wisdom. I love sharing wisdom with people. So I'm curious for you, Tammy, because it's always personal. It's always, the wisdom piece comes for your journey in your life and where you have been. What's been some of some of the greatest things that you feel that you would want to imbibe on the community to take action for a better life? What does your wisdom look like?
My wisdom looks like, don't give up, believe in yourself, be willing to do the work. Be willing to do the work. Walk the path. Be willing to, lift up those things that you've stuck in the closet and not wanting to look at. Sometimes, those things are really, really valuable. They can have really, really good lessons and become really good opportunities and door openers. And by all means, I have some great resources for that. So that's my wisdom. Like,
There you go.
Sometimes you got to have a pause, and you have to take care of yourself, and you have to hydrate. It's like those little things add up.
Yeah. And don't give up, right? If one day you're not remembering all those little things. So what? Next day is another day. Do it again. Try again, right?
Mm.
And reach
And if
out.
you, yeah, and if you have your faith, reach to your faith as well,
Yeah.
turn fear into faith, whatever that might be for you.
Exactly. Tammy, it's been fantastic talking with you today. Thank you for being my first guest of 2021. I mean, 2022, I beg your pardon. I'm
Thank
so
you.
bad on those days, right? Like, yeah, we're at 2022 now. So thanks so much for tuning in, ladies and gents. We're so glad that you joined us on Act 3 on CHLY 101.7. If you are watching us on Act 3 Media Productions on YouTube, hey, thanks a bunch for doing that too. Please like, subscribe, and share. We always want people to find out more about what's going on within community. Great way to do it by tuning into CHLY 101.7 FM. Once again, I'm Kathy Holmes. Thanks for tuning in to Act 3.